opportunity to participate in the debate. It's an important debate, and just Deputy Ring has left the chamber. I agree with a lot he said. However, I think he's the former Taoiseach led the campaign to get rid of the Seanad, if I remember so. His story was told in a certain way with certain truths in it and other told disingenuously. However, I agree with him with the points made in relation to the absence of power at local authorities. As usual, I want to thank the Library Service for their excellent digest. I think it's important to say that. And the bill is 7 parts and 60 sections. I haven't gone through the bill in detail. I have looked at it quickly. It doesn't directly affect me in Galway City, but I have looked at it. But it's noteworthy in terms of the power and the power to bring in a budget, significant power. But it's also worth saying at the same time that the digest points out that the executive functions, the mayor is to get all of the executive functions that are not listed, that remain with the CEO, but nowhere are those executive functions mentioned. Yeah, so that's a big gap at the moment.
We said that at the time, but
did you?
I wanted to get the legislation published.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to put aside that for the moment and make more general points in relation to this. I have very mixed opinions on whether this is the right way to approach, to bring in. Why? Because I believe it's an illusion. I believe it's an absolute illusion that we're given power to a mayor, and I respect the people of Limerick who have voted for it, and they have done that, and I fully respect the democratic decision. However, I think it's an illusion that we're now bringing more democracy. We're doing exactly the opposite. And since the day I came into this stall, I'm fascinated by the misuse of language. And in my experience at local level for 17 years, I watched firsthand the diminution and the reduction of the powers of councillors. And in the 100 years, we have reduced the number of councillors, we have reduced the district council, the urban councils, and we have taken away essential powers. So I actually don't see a reason for having councillors at all, really, at this point. And I'm saying that in a very cynical way. They passed the city development plan, which, as has been pointed out, is overruled by the planning regulator. Let me say, I support the planning regulator, and I've said on this record that the planning regulator role arose out of corruption, out of the findings of the various tribunals that are ongoing in terms of costs. That's where it came from. But I think the nub of it is captured there in that no government has really trusted councillors. And I have my own difficulties, and I was a councillor, because I've seen many rezonings against planners' advice. But therein is the nub. Do we let local democracy work and give power to councillors to make decisions, or do we not? And we haven't done that. We've taken power from them. 8% of Irish public spending is on local, 8% goes to local government, as opposed to 23% at EU level. As has been pointed out more than once, we're nearly bottom of the list in terms of democracy or services that we give. And so, theoretically, we deliver 1,105 services on behalf of 30 government departments. So theoretically, councils are doing an awful lot, but in reality, they've absolutely no power at all, except to bring in the county or the city development plan. And they're come under extraordinary pressure then to pass zonings or not, which leaves a lot to be desired in my opinion. But that's the mess we have left them in, with no real power. So in my time, we took the waste management power from us, from councillors, disgracefully so. The City Council in Galway did its best to bring in a county and a city waste management plan at the time. And because we put an emphasis on zero waste management, recycling 23 years ago, sometimes I get tired listening to myself because I'm repeating. We brought in a waste management plan that was specifically focused on the city and the county to look at waste management. And I'm listening to these new words, the circular economy and all of that. 23 years later, and I'm saying, Jesus, government policy stopped the people of Galway when they led the way through their councillors. They led us by the nose. and they took that away from us. Then the Uisce Éireann, and I do not want to demonise Uisce Éireann or cast aspersions on them. This decision should have never been made. The expertise was within the City Council and the county councils, and we took it off them. Instead of building it up, when 40-something% of the water was being wasted and we didn't have enough staff to deal with that. We had all the expertise, and then we lost it. We lost all that institutional experience and memory. We lost it all, and we gave it to Irish Water, and then we blamed Irish Water for mistakes and all sorts of things, when really the problem was we reduced local democracy. And we've done that over and over. Over and over, we've done that. And so then we talk about a directly elected mayor, and Cork refused it, and Waterford. And Galway was to have a directly elected mayor. However, we were punished, weren't we, in lots of ways, because we didn't go with the government approach to amalgamate the city and the county. We were told, amalgamate the city and the county. Do you remember that legislation that was brought in before us? And I have to thank the Seanad, they stopped it. We were going to make it bigger, when really the approach should be going smaller, more local, more in control. And when we didn't go that way, we were punished. And so let me just go to the county council, and they've repeatedly drawn us in: local authority, finances, population, and so on. Look, that's alone on the county council, begging us, appealing to us, telling us that they're underfunded. And in case you doubt me, let me just, the Ceann Comhairle wants me to be quick, but it is difficult when you just get one chance. On the 20th of June 2023, they wrote to us pointing out that Galway County Council is one of the worst underfunded councils in the country. They can't do the work that in theory they're supposed to be doing. And do you know who confirmed that? The independent reports that were done at the time of the proposed amalgamation. And what was one of their strongest recommendations? Sort out the finance problem in the Galway County Council before any progress could possibly be made on amalgamating the two. Of course, it never happened. And I know all of the TDs, and we've all stood together on this one, to say it is not possible to provide services from a county council that covers the three Aran Islands, Inishbofin, all of Connemara, and further west, further east, with a very limited budget. We have campaigned for years to get, for example, biodiversity officers. We finally got one on each. We declared a climate emergency years ago, and we have no biodiversity officer till last year and most recently. I mentioned that as a specific example because every time we raised it, we were told, oh, it has to be approved by government. So even in terms of employing staff, the council seemed to have no power whatsoever. And then I come to housing. In 2009, that was the last time we built a public house in Galway. I deplore the word social housing. Public housing, and open it up for everybody. Have controlled rents, extend it, raise the threshold. We did not build one single public house in Galway from 2009 on. We got quarterly reports, and in the last paragraph was construction suspended, and it didn't start again till 20 or 21, and we wonder why there's a housing crisis. In relation to the deficit in democracy, various people have said it. The association that represents the councillors nationally, no later than 2 weeks ago in Sligo, made very, very in-depth presentations in relation to the deficit in local democracy compared with other countries. A presentation from, I understand, Dr. Murphy in Maynooth similarly has outlined in a paper, making European comparisons broader than the EU and the Council of Europe and broader again, and we're bottom of the list. So I'm going around in a circle to say I'm standing here with very mixed opinions in relation to the election of mayor, while my heart and soul tells me it's the right thing. A directly elected mayor, given power to the people, what could be wrong with that? But to me, it is nothing more than a distraction from the failure of successive governments to deal with the deficit locally. Failing to deal with, despite green papers, white papers, and all sorts of various things. Actually, in 2014, I understand a commission was proposed that would look at how we would give more power to governments, to local authorities, and that went nowhere. And what happened in 2014? We copper-fastened the corporate mentality. Rather than a council being there to serve, to give essential services, that's all gone by the board. And we copper-fastened the very mentality that has led us to a crisis point in terms of climate change. Profit, corporatisation, and a stealing of language. I despaired, Deputy Minister, I have to tell you, when I was part of a corporate policy group and we were spending hours looking at a corporate plan. In a city that was crying out for leadership, for housing, for health, water and all the other essential services, we were spending hours wasting time looking at a corporate plan. That came from 2014. It was there before. And then we got rid of the name manager and we brought in CEO. That's not what local authorities should be about. They're there for the people, to be led by the people, with elections by the people and power given to them. And I have a difficulty with that given my own experience, but that therein is the nub of it. I have also difficulty with governments because democracy is not perfect. So we need to go back and give the power back. They may make bad decisions, they may make good decisions, but the people will decide then. We will empower the people. And that's what the Lisbon Treaty was to do. Most of it was for militarisation of Europe and the commodification of every known service. And then they put in this little paragraph, I think it was 10, to say decisions should be made as close as possible to the people. Can you imagine that now for cynicism? While we take it away completely, we copper-fasten it in the Lisbon Treaty that decisions should be made as close as possible. I could go on, I have 8 minutes left, but I give it up. Thank you very much.